Okay, if you hear the sounds of the ambulance in the background, it's because Netflix has bodied Luke Cage. That is right. 1 week after Iron Fist cancellation, which no one was shocked by, Netflix shoots another shot out there and it hits Luke Cage. And Luke Cage, the man who was impregnable by bullets, was taken out by Netflix. Let's talk about what's out there. So Deadline is reporting that there was some type of creative differences, which is Hollywood speak for basically like shit went sideways in the background. So there was creative differences. There was supposed to be season 3. The writers had put together a 13 episode order. Basically, they had everything written down. They had the story. They had the plots. But somewhere in there, creatively, Marvel TV and Netflix or the writers, they don't specify who, but there was some type of disagreement on some key points between either Marvel TV and Netflix, or Netflix and the writers, or the writers and Marvel TV. And something happened where the episodes went from 13 episodes down to 10 episodes, and then there were some other things that happened based on the shortening of the episodes, and they couldn't agree on some creative things there. And basically, the best thing was just to kill it, just to basically to cancel Luke Cage. That's what they arrived at, which is kind of crazy when you think about it. Let's think back before Luke Cage was Luke Cage, and before Iron Fist was Iron Fist, and before the Daredevil premiered and Jessica Jones and the Defenders. Remember the hype around Luke Cage and all these other Marvel shows on Netflix when we heard they were coming. We were excited. Damn it, as fans, we were excited. We were passionate. We felt it was, damn, we're going to get our due finally, right? And when Daredevil premiered, we were excited as hell. And then we got Jessica Jones, we got Luke Cage, we got all these damn characters. We were losing our damn minds leading up to the Defenders. But today, it's no longer that day. That was a day when Netflix could afford to pay for that premium Marvel money, that Marvel character money. They were paying out of their pants for these shows, for the properties, and people are saying, oh, Netflix can't afford it anymore. I don't think that's the case. There's a story this week that Netflix basically is going $2 billion, with a B, $2 billion in debt, more debt. They're acquiring more debt. They're saying they're going into a total of $5 billion in debt for content. So Netflix is actually saying they're going to acquire $2 more billion of debt. Let that sit for a second. Create more shows and seasons of the shows they already have. So it's not like Netflix is hurting for money. Their strategy is a long ball strategy. Let me break it down how I see it from my personal opinion looking in. Netflix is basically going all out to acquire viewership. They want to acquire as many eyeballs as possible, even if it puts them into some extreme crazy country type of debt, because they know at the end of the day, when the streaming wars have ended, and Netflix has basically finished the streaming wars, they're basically at the top of the streaming food chain at this point. They want to get all the eyeballs because they know that once you suck into Netflix, you're not turning off your subscription month to month, you're just paying it like a light bill. And that's their hope. They're hoping to basically acquire as many eyeballs as possible, even if it takes them to some extreme debt, because they know once they have won permanently the streaming wars, which they kind of have one at this point. Disney, Hulu, HBO, whoever the hell is coming at them. They want to make sure they put them down and they get those eyeballs, because in the long run, they know people are just going to subscribe and stay subscribed, and they will get back that money, and they will actually surpass that debt, pay back the debt, and start really making money. Netflix is making so much money right now. So much money. Netflix is basically killing the movie industry as I see it, and I think that's basically their strategy right now. So early on, you could say, hey, they really needed they really needed this properties, right? They really needed this money. They really needed that Disney power to come in, that powerhouse characters, and bring them to Netflix so they can actually make these shows. That's probably what happened. They paid out the butt for these shows at the beginning, and now Netflix is in a very different position. They can look at the game and say, hey, you know what? We don't really need you, Disney. We heard you're starting your own Disney Play service, your own streaming service, calling it Disney Play. We heard you're starting that up. We heard that you also have a big part of Hulu now in your pocket. So Netflix didn't have to, hey, basically bow to Mickey Mouse on this one. And they probably fought them at the end for things that they thought were critical. Or Netflix said, you know what? You are starting your own streaming service. We don't want to compete. Our heroes, we don't want to compete with your heroes. There had to be some type of discussion, some type of a long game discussion. That and the fact that, again, Netflix is not exactly hurting for content. Right now, Netflix has some great stuff, guys. Some great stuff they have over there. A lot of new series that are very exciting. And I feel like they basically said, we don't need it. You don't agree with our terms? Fine. Fine, Mickey Mouse. Take Luke Cage, take Iron Fist, and I wouldn't be surprised that after Punisher and Jessica Jones, the next seasons come out, which is going to be season 3 of Jessica Jones and season 2 of Punisher, that Netflix doesn't say kick them to the curb also and says, hey, Mouse Man, Mouse Trap, take these characters out of here. You're out of here. We don't need them anymore, and that's it. And some of you guys have said in the comments, and I agree with you, it seemed like Netflix had a plan as far as all the shows leading up to the Defenders show. Leading up to the Defenders, Netflix had a plan. You hear the ambulance is coming for you. It's coming for you, Luke Cage. You hear the ambulance? They had a plan, and that plan looks like it basically fell apart with the Defenders. The Defenders was a weak miniseries, weak ass show. It was weak compared to the other shows. It's watchable, but it was weak. Come on. It's nowhere in the level of Luke Cage season 1, nowhere in the level of Daredevil season 3. Daredevil season 3 is, by gosh, probably the best Daredevil season out there. It's probably one of the best seasons, period, of any Marvel Netflix show out there, in my opinion. It's a great show right now. It's a great show. And I thought Luke Cage season 1 was a great show. Season 2 was okay. Season 2 was okay. And Jessica Jones season 1 I thought was great as well. So Defenders was nowhere close to that. They said, you know what, this show is basically kicking our butt. We need to get rid of this Defenders show because it's hurting us. So there's no plan for Defender season 2. Obviously, there's no plans for that miniseries. And I feel like after the Defenders, like I said, everything fell apart. All roads led to the Defenders. No roads led after the Defenders. And right now, basically, everybody's trying to do their own thing. And I feel like that was a big problem with Iron Fist. It really never had a direction. Luke Cage seemed to have a direction, but it was a very gritty and a very controversial direction that they chose at the end of season 2. I was looking forward to see what's going to happen, but it was very controversial. It really didn't sync with a general purpose. And one thing that you guys got to think about, now that Disney has Disney Play, that's what they call it, a streaming service, they're basically doing, or they're probably plotting on doing, this is my opinion, the same thing that they did with their movie properties. Remember when Marvel had to sell off all their characters? They sent Spider-Man, all the Spider-Man properties to Sony, and they sent all their X-Men properties to Fox. Basically, they sold away their properties. The Hulk went, I think, to Universal, basically. And when Disney bought Marvel, slowly but surely, Kevin Feige and everybody over there, great team, they've been basically snatching their properties one by one, right? They've been collecting their characters back. They just got Fox, right? They just got the X-Men back. They're playing with Spider-Man and Sony, and they got the Hulk. And I feel like they're doing the same thing now that they have this streaming service. They're going around and they're collecting their characters back. And I feel like Netflix either didn't want to fight them on this one, or they said, you know what? We're going to mess these characters up. I think these characters are not going to be your characters. You're going to have to come up with your own characters, which you do have. I heard the Loki and the Scarlet Witch shows are going to be great. And Netflix says, you know what? We don't want our characters on Marvel competing with your characters. Or you know what? We don't want to play with your characters the way you want us to play with them. Who knows? There was some crazy discussion in the background that brought this upon. And I really think that Disney has this collector mentality, just like the character from the comics. And they're going around snatching back their characters and their properties. And they're putting a lot of stringent, probably, terms around their characters moving forward. So don't be surprised if at Cloak and Dagger, let's say they get canceled in the future and they end up on the Disney service or any other service. Basically, they go around collecting. And DC has their own service right now, their own streaming service. And basically, you notice how all the CWC shows that were on CWC that were DC shows disappeared slowly but surely. You're going to see the same thing, I think, with Disney's streaming service. They're going to go around collecting their characters. And I think this whole we had a difference of opinion thing that happened with Luke Cage. It was much more than just a difference of opinion on this particular show. I'm sure if Luke Cage was the only show that Netflix had, like back in the day when there wasn't much competition on the streaming service, like a premium content, they would have definitely ironed out. But the fact that they were in this atmosphere where Disney's basically launching their streaming service, they acquired Fox, a lot of things are happening with Marvel TV, and they probably said, you know what, we don't need the headache, we're not going to play nice. And Netflix said, you know what, we're not in the same place anymore, so we don't have to take it anymore. And they went their own way. And Netflix, like I said, is going $2 billion more into debt. So it's not like they were hurting. They couldn't afford to pay. They just probably didn't want to pay a premium price anymore. They said, hey, we don't need to. And it's crazy because it's kind of tone deaf. I thought that Luke Cage was, not only was it a great show, but it really captured New York City. It really just put, like, it brought that that relevant aspect to the Marvel shows that I feel like none of the other shows really capture that atmosphere like Luke Cage did in the storytelling. And really, if you think about it, they went around, they killed all the characters of color, right? They took out Iron Fist. Now they're going after Luke Cage. It seems very short-sighted, also. And you can say, hey, why not have these two shows as a loss leader? You know, when you offer something, even though you're losing on it because you want to attract subscribers. But remember, Netflix already got the subscribers. This is their plan. Luke Cage is basically a fatality, in my opinion, of this strategy that Netflix has moving forward, and also a fatality of the situation that's happening with Disney and what's happening with Disney TV, in my opinion. This is those two titans just clashing. And we, the fans, are the ones who get hurt in the middle of it, right? A lot of people are saying, "Oh, Luke Cage and Iron Fist are going to be heroes for hire now. They're going to show up on Disney Play or Hulu or something, or maybe Netflix. You know, they have the rights to those characters. They'll make their own show. But why would Netflix reinvest in those characters when you basically said one didn't work, or we don't know if they work because Netflix doesn't show anybody their statistics. We don't have any viewership numbers. Netflix doesn't share with no one. Only they know. But they're not. I doubt they're gonna take these characters and if they're not gonna do it, they have to do it really quick because they have to sign all these people before they go on in some other directions as far as the actors and the production team and the writers. I'm crossing my fingers. I really hope that I'm wrong, but I don't think it's gonna happen. Honestly, I don't think it's gonna happen. I think that Netflix is at a place right now where they're so big. They have so much content, and when you look around, you're like, damn, you have so much crap here. Also, Netflix, couldn't you afford this to keep Luke Cage? But remember, they canceled Orange Is the New Black. They said, you know, enough seasons is enough, season 7 or 8. They canceled Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt. They canceled Longmire, like I said. They've canceled shows in the past, and they're going to continue to cancel shows for different reasons. It's just it's very shocking. I had to wait like a few days to really like gather my thoughts on this one. When I heard about it, I was shocked. I was like, not Luke Cage. I like Luke Cage. Like, I'm really feeling this. What do you guys think? Do you think this is like just awful timing, that we a victim of what's happening at the current state with Netflix and Marvel? Do you believe, hey, no, at the end of the day, it's just about viewership and we don't know the numbers. So how can you tell me it's about viewership? We don't know the numbers. We don't.
Like and subscribe for more Tone Show.
Good coffee.